There could be a new champions flag flying down the Fulham road if Chelsea continue their march at the top of the table. But out to stop them and cut their points down this weekend are London rivals Arsenal.
They need to really feel that on Saturday this is a title decider, basically, because they're both going for it. You know, Arsenal in second place at this moment in time as we speak. So it's going to be difficult, but someone has to claw Chelsea back. Could it be Arsenal on Saturday?
This stage of the season, 8 points clear, obviously top of the Premier League. It's a must-win game for Arsenal at the weekend, because if you lose that game, you go 11 points behind Chelsea, then you're not going to catch them up. So I think the pressure's probably a little bit more on Arsenal than it is on Chelsea.
It probably defines our season, I'd say. Got to that crunch point where we need to catch up with them. We completely outplayed them here earlier in the year. Would hope for another performance like that. Chelsea, I think, have got losses in them. They look like they're not winning with the utmost power. They're kind of, they look like they're scraping a few results. We look decent in recent weeks. I mean, there's always a troublesome period for us at some point. But yeah, fairly confident, as confident as you can be, really, going into an away game at Chelsea.
Is it Chelsea's title, do you think, already?
It's a big gap, I would say so, definitely. But if we win them, we're now 8 points behind, aren't we? If we win them. If we lose, title's over, definitely.
I think if we can come out of these two games without losing, then yes, it's a big, big step. But to say we're definitely going to win it, I wouldn't like to say at this moment in time.
Well, I wouldn't have thought so. It's a bit early yet, isn't it? Still another, 14 games to go. I think at the moment, Chelsea are on a roll.
Antonio Conte has refreshed Chelsea and changed their defence with a back three and attacking wing-backs. But will they be able to stem a free-flowing Arsenal side that have scored for fun throughout January?
I just think it was a surprise when David Luiz was brought back. I mean, they sold him for 50 million. Everybody thought it was great business because he can't defend, basically. But he's come back, and I think he's been more disciplined, and he's changed it to a 3. I mentioned the beating they took at the Emirates when they were 3-0 down. They were complete disarray, playing just two centre-halves. So with David Luiz in the middle, and you've got Azpilicueta one side and Gary Cahill the other, that gives him a little bit of protection. And he's not taking the risks that he used to take. And then playing Moses, obviously, as the white right wing back, and then Alonso's left. They give him a bit of balance. But what you've got to be against, you've got to be brave, and you've got to make sure that when you're in position, you push those two wing backs back, or you utilise the spaces in behind them, because the centre halves don't want to come out into the wide areas. And it pains me to say it, but Spurs did it fantastic well at White Hart Lane, where Dele Alli and Eriksen utilised those spaces to try and get at the centre halves. So you're going to come under pressure, but you've got to make sure that when you're on the ball, you're brave, and you give Chelsea some problems going the other way.
Many people would say that the game earlier on at the Emirates, where Chelsea lost 3-0, almost changed Chelsea's season.
I don't think almost comes into it. I think it has. I think Conte realised at half-time that this isn't the way I should play. He was so used to playing 3 at the back, 5 in midfield at Juventus, and they were very, very successful at doing so, that he realised he had the players that he could put into practice. And full credit to him, by the way, for changing it and having the bottle to change it as well, because it's quite comfortable. Chelsea's always been a 4-4-2, 4-3, 4-3-3, and it's worked wonderfully well for them. But he had the courage to change it that afternoon, and since then they've gone on a run which has been unbelievable.
We didn't look like a team that was going to compete for the title. After the Arsenal game, obviously Conte changed it. Everybody knows what happened after that. So yeah, definitely.
Well, since then he's obviously motivated the team now that is much stronger, especially the defence. And I think that the up-and-coming youngsters now that he's got playing for him, like yesterday, I think we've got a good side that can win the championship.
We've got such depth at the moment. I certainly think we've got more depth than Chelsea have got. It's just if those 11 players turn out on the day, I think.
Depends. It all depends how Arsenal are feeling on the day, because when it comes to Chelsea, we usually don't do too well. But I mean, in our recent fixtures, we haven't done too bad, so we'll just see what happens.
Arsenal beat Chelsea with an emphatic 3-0 victory here at the Emirates back in September. But how will they fare now Arsene Wenger has been sent to the stands for the next 4 weeks?
I think Steve Bold is good enough to be there. There's no problem with that, Steve. Steve no disrespect to Arsene, I think Steve, if he gets up on the touchline, he'll try and rattle a few cages, to be perfectly honest. And that's what they need, Arsenal.
Well, to be fair, they've obviously battered Southampton 5-0 in the FA Cup the weekend. He was sat up in the stand, so probably a bit more onus on Steve Bold to get his message across to the players. But it does make a difference, because it's like, I equate it to when you go to school and your headmaster's there, everybody's on their toes a little bit more. When the headmaster's not at school and it's a deputy head who takes over, you know, people are quite not as focused. And Arsene is always, obviously in the technical area or in the dugout, wherever you're playing. But you always have the Emirates and all the big away games. Bora Primovic always stands upstairs so he can get an aerial view. And Arsene likes to be close to the pitch to see if the players are passing the ball quick enough, if their distances are good, if the tempo's right. So it does make a little bit of difference.
What will he do? How will he command it, do you think, you know, not being there?
Well, they'll be linked up. They'll be on the radio or they'll be on the mobile phones. So we will be able to communicate with Baldy, and I think it's Neil Banfield on the touchline now. But I think it's still the instructions coming from your manager, so there's that little bit more of an effect. But it's Arsene's own fault. You know, he shouldn't have put his hands on the fourth official. That wasn't a push; it was more of an usher away. You know, there was no sort of violence there, but he's paid the price.
I don't think it makes a massive difference to us. He's not like the most vocal of managers. He's not up and down on the touchline. He's not screaming at players. You watch him and he's parked most of the time. He's sat down and he's observing and says what he has to say as minimal as it is at half time. So I don't think it makes a massive impression on us. I think, you know, Steve Bold's been here a long, long time. He knows how Arsene works. He knows when to make decisions and what he's got to do. I don't think it has a massive part to play for us, to be honest.
Bold's been on there for the Southampton game with 5-0. So, apparently they say he's got no passion when he's on the sideline, don't they? So, but he's shown it when he's got a ban, so yeah.
No Wenger? Is that going to make a difference?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Well, Arsene Wenger's always been the same. You know, he's sort of like everybody else. You know, he's temperament. You know, he can hold it, but if he's losing, then everything is wrong in his eyes. But if he's on form and his teams are winning, then he's smiling and he's cool as a cucumber.
The big question this week is, where do you put your money on the goal scorers, with Diego Costa and Alexis Sanchez pushing each other for the Premier League Golden Boot?
Sanchez is a breath of fresh air. I love Sanchez. I think for me, if I'm honest, Sanchez has been the best player in the Premier League this year. I love watching him. It breaks my heart to say it, being a Chelsea Blue, but it does break my heart to say it, but I think he's been fantastic. He plays him every game, Wenger. He even brought him on at the weekend when they were winning in the Cup. He brought him on. And he is a fantastic footballer, you know, world class for me, because the first thing a supporter wants is his player to give 100%. Well, he gives that in an abundance, and then he has the quality to shine through as well. And I love that. I love that with a passion.
Where does he stand against Costa then, toe to toe?
Well, Costa's the same. Costa is dynamic. You know, he's a beast. He's the one guy that centre-halves don't want to play against. He'll run beyond you. He'll come short. Technically, I don't think he's the best on the planet, I've got to say. But my word, this year he's been absolutely superb.
Yeah, they're both just very hungry players. You can see the desire. I mean, Costa's had his little dummy thrown out the pram, hasn't he, about 2 weeks ago, where he said he had a bad back. He didn't. And I thought Antonio Conte handled it brilliantly by saying, well, I'm the biggest name here. You're not going to mess me around. If you're telling me that you've got a bad back or you might have been tapped up, whichever way you look at it, he said, go on then, you can go and train on your own. You ain't playing on Saturday. So I thought it was brilliant man management. And Diego Costa is one of those players that every other team, if you don't support Chelsea, every other team supporters can't stand him. But if you said to him, do you want him in your team, they'd have him in a heartbeat, because he completely dominates and tries to bully the whole back four and the centre-halves in particular. So Mustafi and Koscielny got to be disciplined. Alexis Sanchez has that same desire and that same burning within him to, you know, influence the games, but obviously he's a different player where he likes running beyond the back fours, and he gets bored if he doesn't get involved in the game. And I like that attitude where he doesn't let the game pass him by. He'll come deep, he'll come into midfield, he'll go on the left wing, go on the right wing to try and influence the game. So, as I mentioned earlier, it's normally these big games where you need your big players to earn their money.
For me, Costa. I think our centre-halves can deal with Sanchez, but I'm not sure if the Arsenal centre-halves can deal with Costa.
Sanchez versus Costa, two of the best strikers in the Premier League?
Yes, I would think so, especially Diego Costa. He's on form at the moment, and I think providing he holds his temper, I think he'll do well against Arsenal at home on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, both of them have been on ridiculous form this season, the whole of the season. I mean, they're the two standout players of the season so far, no doubt.
I mean, not going to lie, Diego Costa is a good player, but hopefully he's not on form that day and he's having a bad day. But I reckon Alex is probably going to get one or two.
If defeat at the Emirates earlier in the season changed Chelsea's fortunes, can a win here at Stamford Bridge on Saturday move them closer to the title?
When you're having a 3-game swing, Chelsea aren't going to lose them, Arsenal aren't going to win them. It's a tough gig. I think it's Chelsea's to lose.
And when you look at it, I mean, we spoke to Perry. You possibly know which way he's going to go.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
If you've got to put your money on it, then Ray, where are the goals coming from, and what's the prediction?
Well, Chelsea to win. I don't think Arsenal are quick enough at the back to cope with this dynamic forward play that they have. I'm going to go, if I'm a betting person, and I do like a little punt before a game, because I'm no longer involved in a club, so therefore I can have a punt, I would go probably Arsenal at half-time, Chelsea to win.
Which way do you think Perry went?
He probably went the other way.
My heart is saying I really fancy Arsenal have the personnel to go there, and they've got the quality to win the game. But my head, as I mentioned earlier, is do they really believe that they can take this Chelsea team on in their own backyard? And I think it's more of a must-win game for Arsenal than what it is for Chelsea. A draw would suit Chelsea if Arsenal, stay 8 points behind, and if Arsenal can win and you can narrow that gap to like 4 or 5 points at this stage of the season, then it starts getting a little bit twitchy, and then you gradually take that Chelsea safety net away. But it's going to be a brilliant game because both teams will go out trying. Arsene Wenger can't set up his team like Mourinho does sometimes to be solid and not give anything away and see if you can nick a draw or maybe win with a set piece. Arsenal's teams don't play like that. They actually go and try and win the game. So for the neutral, it's going to be a brilliant game, but for an Arsenal sport like me, it's going to be quite nerve-wracking.
Go on, I'm going to ask you to put your money on it. Where's the goal coming from? What's the result?
I'm going to go for an Olivier Giroud 85th minute winner, 2-1 for the Gooners. And it might be one of those games where Arsenal don't play the free-flowing football, but they might have to show their gritty side, and might have to eke one up. But it'll be a touch of quality that I think will win the game, and I'm going for a Giroud flick off of his quiff.
We're going to speak to Ray Wilkins in a minute. You know what he's going to say, don't you?
Oh, he's going to say no chance. He can say the other way, Chelsea will be too physical, they've got too much going forward, which you would. And to be fair, Ray at the moment would be right. But Arsenal do have enough quality. It's whether, as I said, I keep saying it, but it's whether they have the belief that they can beat this Chelsea, because this is a very strong Chelsea side.
I'd like to think we'd get the same result that they got earlier in the season, 3-0. But as I say, if we got a draw out of it, I'll be happy. If we win, even better.
I would think we possibly could pull it off at 2-1, and the scorers, I think Diego Costa and possibly Pedro.
I'll go with a hard-fought draw, 1-1 Costa Sanchez.
I reckon Sanchez 2, Costa 1.
You've heard the stats, the news and views. Now it's down to you. Get all the latest odds at betsafe.com, and remember, you've got to be in it to win it.